Thanks for telling me. Should check that. Apparently there's been no audio anyway, so I just had someone come and yell at me. Oh well, should check these things. I don't stream a lot. I was just kind of doing this as a new thing. I've tried a couple times. It's always been something. I talk a lot, but it's like much less relaxed when I'm streaming, so who knows. Welcome everybody. We're going to review Giza, the Great Pyramid, and then we're going to look at some old contracts. Oh, I got a little warm up there. It's a free warm up. We're going to look into Giza, the Great Pyramid. It's a new UniV3 release, new token type. It's very similar to up only tokens in that it also seems like it pretty much goes up only. There's a bit of variation on it, but this will have basically a very large price floor. Basically 100% of the liquidity gets put in a 10% wall, so 100% of the entire ETH in liquidity, and it sucks in 10% from each buy or sell into the liquidity. So it's not like direct always calculatable exactly what will happen in certain scenarios. So this wall is designed to cover 50% of the market cap. Market cap being a weird thing, but it's much more relevant here. I'll talk about that later. Market cap becomes much more relevant when you're dealing with a coin that doesn't go down, because it can't just go. If it went up forever with the market cap, that wouldn't work. So people do sell the token, and then it just, the amount in circulation will be significantly less. They won't have an infinite market cap, and this is why half of the market cap is covered there. So basically, to review the project quickly, it's got a super thick buy wall that acts as the price floor, right? And it's spread across a 10% price range. So in UniV3, UniV2, you put two sides of a coin, they're always equal. In UniV3, you choose where you stack your liquidity on both sides. If the price was here, you'd have this side of one liquidity, this side is the other, and you could choose to put a little bit here, a lot there, none there, and more there. So what they've chosen to do is put all of the ETH they have here to absorb sells, and then they take a much bigger range of the tokens for sale. They say 100% enough to go double the price, triple the price, or double the price, triple the price, and then quadruple, I guess. So if that goes down here, right? So a 10% band covers all the liquidity. So any sellers are hitting into this, and any buyers are going in this bigger range, right? So once the price moves up, it can, I don't know the exact setup they have. It might be that the price goes up and sellers still get this price, and buyers slowly have to bid it up. And as the buyers bid it up, there's a range. That's also like somewhat of a hidden fee, but also just like it benefits the system, because that should get sucked directly into liquidity without being part of the fee, and it won't affect user slippage. So similar to the root systems, they make the calculation by just selling everything into the price floor, into this 10% band. So I'm going to go down the article quickly for important information. So this uses, no one's seen the token contract yet. It seems like a new contract, which is rare. So we always like to see that. As much as there is thousands of projects in crypto, there's really only like 20 to 25 real contracts that everyone uses. There's a ton out there that never caught on, but there's really only like 10 to 20, maybe 25 max that people use. This is just because safety, consumers knowing what they're going to be dealing with. It's hard to explain new things to people, especially when finance is involved. And that's why a lot of things we see really mimic old finance. People appreciate what they're used to, and people are willing to interact with things they're used to. So basically, what we see here is on each buy transaction, you get 15% fee. 5% goes platform development. That's kind of high. Usually you don't see that much. 10% goes to what they call programmatically rising price locked liquidity, and they acronymed it PURPLE. So we'll just call it Purple from now on. So in essence, Purple is an ETH bid wall of concentrated liquidity, and that's what it's talking about. 10% in a 10% range right below the price will be the lowest it should ever go, and that's like an ever. So the bid wall will always cover this much. Now, I'm not sure what happens after, if that much gets in circulation and that much more gets sold. I'm sure they have an answer and have worked that out. And I think I understand it, but I don't want to say for sure. So they call it reorganization of liquidity. And every time it sucks in enough fees from the 10%, that's from people going in and out, they just take this giant chunk of Ethereum and they just move it up. And then they wait for enough trading again, and then they move it up. And that basically is like the entire system, which is like pretty elegant and small. Now for buyers, it's a little different. For sellers or for holders, you're just watching your price floor go up and knowing that that's probably going to be the price you get when you sell. The longer you wait, the more volume needs to happen before it can go up. Things like that. So this really becomes volume based, less than time based, and which is, you could say that about a lot of coins, but the market pricing system that we use, which is last trade, just really lets the price, volume doesn't matter as much. It's where exactly you sell. With something like this, it's the volume over time that will determine how much it goes up, therefore what price you're going to get, right? It's much more direct, and you can kind of calculate what needs to happen for you to profit on your position. Whereas in a traditional market, you have to hope things happen, and you have to be ready for those things. With something like this, it's much more like math direct, where you can just calculate, okay, well, once this happens, I will be in profit, right? Or once this happens, like, I won't have to watch my trade anymore or worry, and then I'll just have to wait for how much profit I want, right? Which in some ways is like, a recipe for disaster, because you need capital flows. But in other cases is like, the people who are in the most profit would have to wait longer to get more profit, so they're more likely to take what they have and go to a different system. Now, it's for that reason we'll likely see, if this is successful, we'll see many of them, because you won't want to have your money sitting in one that's gotten big. You will want to have your money sitting in, moving to the one that's going to get big soon, right? So in that way, it's this game of chicken, where you want to like leave one pyramid to go to the next one, but you leaving is going to increase everyone's value. So you want to like get to the next one at the right time, but you don't want to leave the current one. So this can create a lot of really interesting stuff. Now they say they're going to, there definitely was a bug because the decompilers weren't working either, but they decided they're not going to quite rush to validate yet, just to prevent forks while like they kind of get the word out. Because people can get you can get front run on your own stuff. So basically, repeats this 15%, and they call it a reorg function, which I pointed out in my practice run. Is that usually a very negative word in blockchain? A reorg is when your blockchain gets reorganized, and that means the transactions that used to be there are no longer there, or they are reorganized in different places, which is just really terrible. And usually the way some exchanges like Coinbase very famously got hit for a lot of Ethereum Classic with like a 2-day reorg or something. So basically any deposits that had went there ended up getting reorganized away for good and sent somewhere else after the person had already withdrawn like probably millions of dollars, I assume. I don't know. It was one of the Coinbase hacks if you want to look it up, through Ethereum Classic. So on the reorg, this Giza contract is sold in the liquidity pool, and then all liquidity is pulled back into the contract. Yeah, so basically it just pulls all the liquidity out and puts all of it back in by one chunk above, right? You can't just move it from one above. Just every time the condition is met, or the reorg function is called, they pull all the value out and put it directly back in. Now this is the same function. I'm going to assume, very directly assume this, like, because they haven't validated the contract, but yeah, this would be the same function. So while I am saying that it goes out and back in, it's all kind of at once. It's just a procedural case on blockchain. Everything happens in order. So you can't really have concurrent actions on a blockchain. You can have two things happen and then share a result, but you can't have two things happen like independently and also interoperate with each other. They have to happen. One thing happens before another one. It's just the way it goes. It's a deterministic system. If things don't affect each other, technically they can happen at the same time. You can consider them as having happened at the same time. And then, sorry, I tangent a lot on crypto stuff. So yeah, all the liquidity is below there, and I'm going to go show you the other article quick, and then, which is the game plan. Now, this is where they outline their use cases and what their plans are. and it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty straightforward. You know, like they're doing the DEX, Giza swap, and they're doing a so they're doing a DEX for these tokens. Now, because it's built on top of Uni v3, there'll still be ways to interoperate with the other existing tokens, right? Because it's built on top of Uni v3. So while Giza swap in this case is not exactly, it's not a standard Uni v2 fork. It's built on top of Uni v3, which means, yeah. So seems like they want to wait for what they consider is going to be their monopoly over the V3 altcoin season has been cemented. So no comment on V3 altcoin season, but yeah, all of the stuff they're doing in here is possible on V2, and the code is public, and I feel like I want to show that in a little bit. And the code's verified and stuff, and it does work already. There's just, people want really volatile markets. So that was the problem we ran into when the Root team launched some very similar stuff, namely Octadahlia and octadahlia. One was very similar to this in that it goes up in chunks. Whenever it collects enough fees, it goes up. Anyone can call the function, and these contracts were owned by groups of up to 3 people. And about 1,500 of them got made because we just left an open factory. But there wasn't a lot of communication, proper communication about how these tokens worked. So in this case, these guys are probably in the same situation right now, where they need to really do a good job explaining their tech. Yeah, so no, that's not a video. Yeah, I combed through this all before. Yeah, so they added a programmatically buy-side liquidity lock. So they have that code I'd like to see. I'm not sure how they do it. Yeah. No comment on the usefulness of Ponzi-nomics tokens, which meaning tokens that try to just go up. They are awesome, and they are my forte. But they need more than that. So they are doing the swap on top of V3, and they're also doing a launchpad, which are like pretty standard use cases. So like what we see here is just like a really good new token, but with standard, I guess, like the standard use cases that most people end up going for. I think that's the kind of the thing about all token use cases, is they really only mostly interoperate with other tokens. And that's just kind of what we see across the board. So it's not like a positive or negative. It's just how the industry is right now. I guess we're seeing slightly more real world stuff. Metaverse stuff probably counts in the real world, in the better tier use cases, I guess, for tokens. But for the most part, tokens only interoperate with each other. So we see a lot of DEXs and a lot of like experimentation. So they are going to allow, basically you have to use their DEX to, you know, to use their token tech, which is fine. So this probably, yeah. So we'll have to see how it comes out. It's a launchpad, and launchpad usually means they will find projects that want to launch, or there'll be a public version and a verified version. They'll verify the teams to make sure you're not going to get like super rugged right away, and then they'll have a second option where people can just launch their own. So I'm probably going to try and build something like that for V2, and just like sneak out what I call the runoff hype. I mean, this is the Root channel. So if I'm talking about another project, it's because it's, you know, it's relevant to us, right? In this case, it's very similar in tech. We tried to do this on V3 for Hackathon last year, like very similar to what they're doing. We were just going to do 2 concentrated liquidity positions right on top of each other. And then it's just a buy and a sell. And then it just goes like this. And then every time it collects fees, the fees go into launching clones of itself. We called it pandemic tokens, but it was an unfinished project. It was well suited for the time, and it was it was a good name. So that one never got released, but it was our V3 attempt similar to this. I don't know if it would have worked. This by having a range that the price can trade in is also a plus. Let's see if anyone's messaging me that I'm screwing up still. No, awesome. By having the range to trade in instead of a locked-in price, that's also a plus. Basically, we only know so much about this right now. And yeah, I definitely am just looking forward to the code. And where's it? Yeah. So other than this, they're adding staking, launchpad, and DEX, right? So two of the things. One of the things we have. One of the things we're thinking about, and one of the things we kind of passed on a while ago. So it ends up a lot of work to run a launchpad because you end up really having to like have someone researching people's teams all the time, right? Like you have to have someone researching, like reaching out to teams, like, hey, launch on our thing until you get known. And the tech is good and might stand on its own. If these guys are successful with this, you can expect to see the same thing from us or very similar with our own code base. There's already I'm going to open up where would it be? There's a lot of research done in this kind of area. So it's octadahlia.finance, and then I think about takes you to the white paper. So basically, there's a long paper about markets that work like this. I should send this to Ultra XBT is the guy who seems to be spearheading the project. It kind of starts off academic-y, but there's a lot of things we can do. Basically, this is what we want. This is the kind of thing we want to look for, right? It's this emotional experience in trading. So what Giza does is it takes that and puts it more like this, right? And which one do you want to do? Like, you're having emotions here of you should have bought, should have sold, right? And then you end up just maybe you make a little on this volatile market, but you should have held. In this case, it's just, pretty great headlines, right? We make it really different. So just new price floor, right? So normally you have a range. Their range is now just squished, right? So these are all just similar things. I guess upOnly.finance, if it ever gets worked on, because they have the domain, would include Giza as one of the examples of someone using this tech. We did it on UniV2 by having what we call a dynamically adjusted burn, so a DAB, and dynamically adjusted liquidity, which is a DAL. So the DAL and the DAB combine to basically accomplish what they're accomplishing on V3, which is like a locked-in price. And then I guess I want to make sure we get a chart up on here because there was these have been around for a long time. This is throwaway account. So this is basically from a while ago. I don't know if this one's still coming through. Yeah, so basically this is the chart for the BUSD version of Octadahlia. This is all just buys and sells, and we just ran a bot to kind of show like the same value. The market cap stayed the same through this whole run up, and this is like an illusion run up, but it's not it's not being bought up here. These are buys and sells, right? Buys and sells, the fees are what bring it up, right? And then we change the settings in the bot, so it's just buy, sell, but it always stays in this tight range. So then what you see here is people throwing the price out of whack. Now what happens there is that's when the dynamically adjusted liquidity and the dynamically adjusted burn comes in. So this person who bought up to here didn't pay, or he looks like he paid a higher price, but he suffered less of a burn. So he actually paid functionally the exact price he should have. This person who sold down here, like this, I guess it's the same guy, but same idea. So someone who made a candle down to here looks like he got less money than he should have when he exited the system. Not the case. He got less of a burn charged, so he functionally paid this exact price. And then every time if the price goes out of whack, we have a bot to come in and do the DAL, every few days, the dynamically adjusted liquidity. And and then the more volume that comes in, the more it goes up. Now, because the glorious best charting site ever, PooCoin, condenses charts, this actually launched in October. And culminating, where was it? It was the end of October. We turned off our bot around the 27, 28. And then basically just kind of hadn't caught on yet. We had a little bit of action. This was all just us cycling the same value. So we have, these are not new concepts, but they're never caught on. And a lot of the attribution is just consolidated launch plans. we had a really big October last year. It didn't turn out perfect, but we had a lot of launches, and this was part of them. And there's like 6 or 7 of them that are out there. You can trade in different currencies. One of the problems with them, I will say, is when you don't trade in a dollar-based asset, people still think in dollar-based assets. So the default on most charting sites goes to a USD price. So you can see, like, this is an up-only token, right? Like, but you wouldn't think that by looking at this because it's charted in USD, and this is a BNB pair, right? So this is a token against BNB. Now, if you look at this token against BNB, it will now look magical. Well, not as magical as it could. So there's, you see the spread. All these people paid the correct price, right through the middle of where it should be, because the burn gets adjusted. Now, if it goes too far to range, you don't get to pay a negative burn. Like, we don't give you extra. So it does have a cap at like a couple percent. So if you end up dumping too far below the market or buying too high above the market, well, if you buy too high above, you can end up paying the wrong price. If you sell too far below, yeah, I don't know if one of the directions you can end up paying the wrong price. But yeah, we kind of see that this one with BNB didn't work out, or none of them worked out in the long term. But this one doesn't work out in the charts. So I like to focus on the USD chart. So if you ever see the Giza chart and it looks like it's going down compared to the just look at the ETH price, because there's a good chance it's just going to go up in chunks, or it's going to they allow some volatility more than I expected. I should end my sentences sometimes, but I'm not about that life. Let's see what it's doing first. Yeah, actually I don't. Oh yeah, I guess I have to do the disclaimer. I don't own Giza, and I made these other tokens that I'm comparing it to. So that's my comparison. So that's my disclaimer. Anything negative I say about them should be considered biased, and anything positive I say about myself should be considered biased. Just assume. Yeah, so I don't know where they trigger their function. They did let the price go all the way to 60 cents somehow. I guess they just let, it's people are buying, and someone dumped way down into what it seems to be the price floor band right now at 30 cents. And that's why you see the price get locked there a couple times. I should see the chat in case someone's yelling at me. That's okay. No. Yeah, this is mostly, oh, no audio. Thanks, people who told me. And then me finally looking at the chat. Yeah, where was I? On the, yes. Yeah, oh yeah, I have me too. And I also plan on doing some coding of the other projects. So Giza's still bumping. If you want to get in, like, I don't know, no financial advice here, but like, it's not supposed to go down. The tech looks like it does the same thing as my tech was supposed to do, which was not go down. So, I don't know, make your own decisions. It's on ETH. The version on, if you search it on CoinMarketCap, you will get the wrong thing. Okay, so I'm going to probably cut it here and then switch to another concept, which is I'm going to do some coding of mine, and kind of walk people through a review of the up-only tokens in their initial form. Where is it? Yeah, there you go. You can see me too. Yeah, I'm leaving the price chart up too. There you go. No, I'm leaving. Change that to mine. It's much more dramatic. There you go. Get this one on there. Oh, it doesn't want to change. That's okay. Where are you, Dex Tools? Yeah. Well, there's the Giza charting. We can watch it. Okay, so this is the most recent up-only system. I've already started bashing these apart, and I'm basically looking to basically ride the Giza hype if there's something there. If these guys get really popular, these kind of topics will be finally talked about, and there's just going to be a good opportunity to get the discussion out there and show people the other versions of the tech. The white paper is probably needs a rewrite, or a light paper needs to be invented, which is part of the plan. Yeah, I never shut up in real life, but I never know what to say when I'm streaming. This is my problem. Yeah, it's crazy. I always want to talk when I don't feel obligated to. Yeah. So basically, where are we? The Octadahlia contract was super long, and it has 3 or 4. Oh god, I actually think I have a map of it somewhere. There's 3 or 4 side contracts. The fee splitter, which sucks in the fees. So all of these are flowers. So if you see the words flowers and like stuff like that, lily, dahlia, they're all flowers, and they've got 8 petals. So they're all octalily, octadahlia, things like that. Where is it? So the time rift is very small, and it's basically the factory, and it just octadahlia grows brighter. It's a public function. We made it owner only in this case, but there is a function to do it. We had a problem with too many flowers being created when we made Octalily. There was people weren't trading the tokens or buying them or participating that way. People were just launching them. So we got about 1,500 or more, which was just too many for people. Everyone owned them separately, so we just kind of gave out ownership of a lot, and it just didn't catch on, which happens. Yeah, so we fixed the DAB percent as the dynamically adjusted burn. You set that, in this case, the DAB percent being the minimum percent before it returns that it needs to DAB. So who needs balance checks all the total. Sorry, I'm not good at doing content reviews. So basically, opening, we're doing a rewrite, so this isn't even functional right now. We just have our parameters explaining different things. This is how we track our flowers with a nonce system. We track what pool belongs to each flower, and we number them. We then assign addresses as balancers, right? So each flower is the token, right? The terminology will probably change in most cases if this rewrite gets finished. But I just got inspired by Giza coming on, so I decided to take a look at this one again. We just keep track of the last nonce that was used. We number the flowers. We track their trading pools, and we assign a group of people that will be balancers. Now, in this case, balancer means someone who can reset the price to what it's supposed to be. We can't let that be a public function. Now, remember, if that price isn't reset, the burn rate will be adjusted for you. So it just looks worse on the chart. That was also a bit problematic when you're trying to charge a burn that changes. It's confusing, first of all, but it's, the functional end result is to get the right price. Some people probably get extra confused by it, or even held up if their buy or sell wasn't working, or their previous trade worked and then this one didn't. But it was the best way to functionally deliver the correct price to the user. And then every time one gets created, we fire off an event. So constructor just means this is data that gets loaded when you create a contract, and we just tell it where the Uniswap factory is that we're going to use, right? So this is just setting the Uniswap factory, which is up here, right? So this knows we're going to use the Uniswap factory in this contract. We're going to make it do things, right? Look, there's a splitter. That's a flower fee splitter, right? So we're going to use a splitter in this contract. These are just public variables, and these are mappings of one variable to another. So enable balancer is just exactly what it sounds like. We're enabling an address to be the balancer. Setting the fee splitter is choosing where the fees go to get collected, and which will further split them out to the users. We don't do it all at once because of the gas intensity. We want the fees to collect over time and then be split once. So we segment the actions. The fees in this case go to root, up tokens, and development. But that'll probably be the same. Given that they take 5 for product development, I should stop taking 0.1. Right? It's reasonable. It's reasonable to take more because you actually have a lot of stuff to do. If this last year has taught me anything, it's that so much more goes into building a product out than just creating a mechanic or creating a thing, or you got to find the right people for every phase. I need business nerds. If you're a nerd about crypto business stuff, that's the person I need to reach out to me. You know, like whatever you're a nerd about is what you're best at, in my opinion. So then the owner, who is defined as the person who owns the contract, in this case the root multisig, or would be the root multisig if this launches. If this relaunches, the last one's run by the deployer, but don't really have any special features. There was no activity on this. So there's only really two or three functions. Recover tokens can be considered separate. That's just for if tokens get sent to this contract, you know, that aren't supposed to, like airdrops and stuff. These kind of recover tokens, or if people screw up, these kind of recover tokens function, or I've seen them called escape hatch before. These kind of things can just save a lot of people a lot of time and money, or both. Yeah, so there's only a couple functions. These pair off the balance prices and who needs balance, and then there's the octadahlia grows brighter. So I'm not going to go through the nitty gritty of this right now. Maybe I will. You just create the new contract. So this contract knows the octadahlia contract. It has a copy of it inside itself, so you can just tell it to create a new one. So it launched knowing the bytecode. You can see it imports it here. So that means it has the entire contract part of launched with this contract. So we can just create a new one every time. And that's just how a factory works. Technically, this is a octadahlia factory, but it's just naming conventions. Factory we took from somewhere else as well. You know, like it's just programming word, I guess. We increment our nonce up. We tell the nonces whatever this number is now, which will be one higher than the last one. Plus makes the number go up by one. The nonces, we increase it, then we name it this. So when we say here, we're creating it, and we're naming it this. So now we can use this as our local variable within the function. We can use this to do stuff. So we're gonna, use it to label the nonces of this one. Well, we give it a nonce. We're gonna use it to create a pair. So this is probably the important one, right? You create a pair. You want a trading pair. You gotta have starting liquidity, starting supply. So that all comes from whoever creates. Or no, when you create the pair, you don't need that. And then you gotta adjust the pair. Now we do some tricky stuff here. So this is where I guess if developer people or people that are into Uniswap will be interested, because basically we mint and burn directly to the pool as a price control mechanism. And that sounds probably scary to everyone, as it should. So we have this thing called balance adjustment, where you just it's similar to slip in the Maker protocol, I guess, which you just slip in and change the numbers. And it's very direct. And normally you wouldn't want to do that for various reasons, because it's ridiculously dangerous. But these are actually been privately audited, which is awesome, and fully tested. A lot of scenarios. So that's fine. Now you have to, as the creator, which was owner, I'm tempted to not remove that. I don't know. Let's not talk about possible changes right now. What it is, we create the token. We send all the liquidity you want to start your token with there. We then mint directly to the pool. So we're calling balance adjustment a few times. The reason, and we're also giving the amount to message sender. Now message sender is the person, in this case the owner, but whoever calls this function and creates the new contract of the factory. So this is, again, this whole thing is a factory, and by pushing this button, octadahlia grows brighter, you create a new one, and it just never goes down. It's only goes up, and then you get to own it, and you get to be in control of it. And then it's yours, right? And then you get another one, and it's not really a point in having multiple, but this was a way to give everyone not only a factory for making token pairs, but a free way to create a token, and the starting liquidity be however much you want. And then the max buy percent limits who can participate. So if you started the liquidity at $1 and set the max buy percent at 10%, the next purchase could be for no more than $10, right? And then there'd be 110 in, or there'd be $1. If you started at $1, the next purchase could be no more than 10 cents. And then there'd be $1.10 in there. Someone could buy in for 11 cents, right? This is kind of like a unique anti-whale mechanism. Now, yes, they can stack in for multiple accounts, but because they have to layer in, they end up buying from themselves. So it doesn't end up being as advantageous as if they aped in right before tweeting about it, say. Down here, yeah. So we mint directly the pool, and then we call setup on the flower token, which is a much longer contract. And then we set the fee splitter. We register the flower, and then we approve the paired token. So the fee splitter can pull our fees from us later because it's better than pushing in a lot of cases because we have to call a register function. Yeah, so then these two functions go together. This one is a view function, so anyone could technically call it. You just ask who needs balance, and it looks at all the existing tokens and what prices they should be. And if it needs more than, if the price is wrong, if it's too high or too low due to trading, now again the burn will compensate for it. But if it's too high or too low due to trading activity, then it'll just set it to where it should be. So either way, the whole time users have been always getting the correct price. But by calling the balance function, we just make the chart look prettier, we'll say. When it never came back up. But yeah, the chart looks like, or it should look like this. Nope. Yeah, here we go. This is the only chart we should ever have to see again. Yeah, but again, people want volatility because they can trade against each other, and it becomes more of a competition, a competitive game. Now, switching to a system like this, like the Giza or any of these up-only tokens, what that's going to accomplish is it's going to force everyone into a collaborative mindset, right? So right now we're all competitive in markets, and it's like we're told that greed is good and stuff, but it's like just remember that's a movie quote, and the bad guy said it. He was the bad guy, and he said greed is good, and then he wrecked a bunch of people in mean ways, I think. So like maybe like greed's not good. Some people say greed got us here to where we are. The competitive nature of people wanting more and being willing to outcompete each other. Can't disagree on a lot of that. But copyright, have you noticed that every company has misspelled words in their name now? It's because every word's been copywritten. Like there's certain aspects of things that are going to be good and bad. But I think where we are now, collaborative markets have a place as opposed to purely competitive markets, right? Now that we're in a globally connected world, now that most people are online and we're finally getting access to global finance in one way or another, technically just the old way, but on the Bitcoin network. I'm a little bit salty old Bitcoiner. They got on my lawn and they didn't leave. Yeah, we invited the banks in and we thought anything that it would be not terrible. We had some thoughts that it wouldn't be terrible, so that was silly of us. Yeah. Then I'm going to go through the next one, which is much longer. I probably should just go through these smaller ones because I haven't reviewed the other ones in a while, and I'm personally just rewriting them. This one's just been cleaned up a little bit. It's actually still super messy, so I'm not a real coder. I'm an Ethereum developer, which means I can make any contract, do anything, but I can't tell you all the right words that coders who went to school use. That's ridiculous. Like, I ain't got no time for that. This is the crypto world. It moves really fast. I don't know. It's compensating there. I should go back to school. It's never too old. Yeah, this was done weirdly. Looking back at old code decisions is always fun. All right, so this will live on as a recording, I think, because I don't know, just like I always have so much to say, but I'm running out of things, so I'm just gonna keep at it. Talk root stuff when we get some root people online. Yeah, and maybe I'm gonna connect with the Giza. Oh, where did I go? Connect with the Giza people soon and see what they're up to and see when they're going to release their code. I would like to do a full review of that, and I'm going to continue rewriting this one and see what happens. So I will see you guys soon for anyone who watches the future, and root updates to come. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it.